There is a major argument for federalizing Washington, D.C. President Trump has threatened to do this. But I want to start it above, really, if you think about it, above the issues in the city and the issues with the entire organism of Washington, D.C. Because the argument for federalizing D.C., while there are unique abilities of the president to do that, it is a federal city. It's an argument for federalizing a lot of cities because what's going on in Washington, D.C. is not unique, but is particularly perverse in a way that it goes on in Washington, D.C. But let's start a level up. Let's start with what Tulsi Gabbard released when Kash Patel found the evidence of Barack Hussein Obama's conspiracy against the United States of America that he led in an attempt to delegitimize an election and overthrow an elected president, a soft rolling coup. These things are not in question anymore. This stuff had been in a burn bag. Kash Patel found it not just in a burn bag, but in a secret room. This is how the Washington Post treated this, and this was Thursday of this past week. Gabbard overrode CIA officials' concern and pushed to release classified Russia report. CIA officials warned that the release of a House report on 2016 Russian election meddling could reveal top-secret spying techniques and sources, but Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard authorized a lightly redacted version with President Trump's blessing. Releasing sources and methods. My gosh, is that worth it when we're talking about showing the fact that Barack Hussein Obama directed from the Oval Office an attempt to overturn an election by either delegitimizing President Trump or forcing him to resign or being able to build up enough momentum to have him actually impeached and removed from office, all based upon a pretense? It's lawlessness. When you're dealing with lawlessness, you create a low-trust society, or in this case, a low-trust culture. Do you think anyone at the CIA trusts anyone at the CIA? Do you think anyone at the FBI trusts anyone at the FBI? When there is a lawless culture, everyone else is going to look around and say, why am I following the law? Why am I following the rules? They're not. As FBI agents can look at what the FBI leadership is doing, why am I following the rules when FBI is not? FBI leadership's not. CIA people the same way. CIA contractors, FBI contractors. Hey, this is the culture of getting stuff done. We're going to get rid of Trump. It's lawlessness. And incidentally, the Washington Post getting these leaks, the people at the CIA, the leadership there, Trump's actual team should find every single person who spoke to the media about this stuff and run them out of their professions. And to the Washington Post, I will take any day the revealing of sources and methods if we're actually going to get to the bottom of what happens in that election. And I think we're starting to get there. Now, you see people would see this as a twisted line, as a jump. It's not a jump. It's not a jump into federalizing Washington, D.C., and I'll show you this in just a second. When you look at Washington, D.C., you're looking at a bunch of people who provided themselves a series of protections. Oh, you can't sue an office holder, and you can't take them to court if they say something on the floor of the Senate. Even if they directly lie about you, they make up, for instance, that Mitt Romney didn't pay taxes. If you're a small or medium-sized business owner, you probably think you have a corporate veil because you've got an LLC or a corporation, right? So you probably think you're set up to be protected in case there's a lawsuit against you, God forbid. I'm here to tell you I've met countless people now who thought they were protected. They thought their corporations were actual corporate credit. They thought their LLCs had actual corporate credit. They went to Visible. It's Go Visible with a Z, govisible.com, and they found out, to their chagrin, they did not have corporate credit. I've had several people tell me their tax accountants and lawyers set up their corporations, and it was still based upon their personal credit. So go see them. It's govisible.com. A free no obligation consultation awaits. They'll tell you if you have actual corporate credit, and if you don't, and I bet you don't, they will build it for you in 7 easy steps. It's govisible.com. Go get yourself protected because you know Washington, D.C. is protecting themselves. The lawlessness from the top. Washington Post coordinating with CIA leakers, pretending there's some sort of controversy around this. And President Trump then speaking about a lawless Washington, D.C.
By the way, I have to say that somebody from Doge was very badly hurt last night. You saw that. A young man who was beat up by a bunch of thugs in D.C. And either they're going to straighten their act out in the terms of government and in terms of protection, and we're going to have to federalize and run it the way it's supposed to be run.
Run it the way it's supposed to be run, as in actual law. And in fact, this did happen. There's photos of the after effect of this, and Elon Musk tweeted about it, and almost in a way, I guess, making up with President Trump in a way. A few days ago, a gang of a dozen young men tried to assault a woman in her car at night in D.C. A Doge team member saw what was happening, ran to defend her, and was severely beaten to the point of concussion, but he saved her. It's time to federalize D.C. And in fact, this is the guy who has the nickname Big Round Things. Kind of rounds, oblong, those big things. President Trump posted this. Crime in Washington, D.C. is totally out of control. Local youths, he puts in quote, and gang members, some only 14, 15, and 16 years old, are randomly attacking, mugging, maiming, and shooting innocent citizens at the same time, knowing they will be almost immediately released. They're not afraid of law enforcement because they know nothing ever happens to them, but it's going to happen now. The law in D.C. must be changed to prosecute these, quote, minors as adults and lock them up for a long time, starting at age 14. The most recent victim was beaten mercilessly by local thugs. Washington, D.C. must be safe and beautiful for all Americans and, importantly, for the world to see. If D.C. doesn't get its act together and quickly, we'll have no choice but to take federal control of the city and run the city how it should be run and put criminals on notice that they're not going to get away with it anymore. Perhaps it should have been done a long time ago. Then this incredibly young man and so many others would not have had to go through the horrors of violent crime. If this continues, I'm going to exert my powers and federalize the city, make America great again. So President Trump is speaking about a dynamic in Washington, D.C., which is the same dynamic in Cincinnati. Police are overwhelmed because their criminals know nothing's going to happen. It's the same dynamic in Seattle. Police often arrest the same person 4 times in a day. Think of this. I talked to a cop in Seattle who arrested a person for a sexual assault crime. Arrests that person, takes them to jail. There's video of the assault. It happened on a bus. There were witnesses in addition to the video. He takes the guy to jail. A couple hours later, he's driving in the same area of Seattle, and there's the guy at the bus stop. He sees him. Now, he knows the guy's on parole, and he knows the people around him, some of them are felons. Therefore, he can go violate this guy's parole and take him back to jail. 2 more times that day, that cop found a legal way to arrest that guy. This happens all up and down the West Coast and the foreign countries. It happens all over Los Angeles and San Francisco. It's happening in Cincinnati. What President Trump is talking about here in Washington, D.C. is a decision they have made to allow criminals to overrun the city. Now, if you want to get conspiratorial on this, be my guest, because I don't think it's a great big surprise that there are people who want to destabilize the United States of America. They want to so destabilize her that people will do anything to get normality back. And that anything can often be the form of tyranny or more control, or the Democrats have to run things, or we need more money for homelessness, and it becomes this vicious cycle. President Trump also instructed the Commerce Department to do something very important. We're speaking of lawlessness. The dynamic set up in Washington, D.C. is lawless. In Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, it's lawlessness from the top, and in the streets, we go back to the top. Different arena, but same exact battle, a battle against lawlessness. President Trump posted this. I've instructed our Department of Commerce to immediately begin work on a new and highly accurate, I love that, a new and highly accurate census based on modern day facts and figures, and importantly, using the results and information gained from the presidential election of 2024. People who are in our country illegally will not be counted in the census. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The lawlessness of counting illegal immigrants in the census came from the top. The same Barack Hussein Obama, who orchestrated a rolling coup against President Trump from the Oval Office, that according to the information we now have, because Kash Patel found it in a burn bag in a secret room from the Jimmy Comey era, lawlessness. President Trump is speaking about the lawlessness that President Obama installed when he decided to make sure illegal immigrants are counted in our census. Why would they want illegal immigrants counted in the census? Because it gives them incentive to bring more illegal immigrants into key voting districts. They are not voting mostly not voting. Some are. And praise God, some have been caught. But their very presence gives more congressional seats to Democrats, who then use that to further destabilize cities. It's something to look at. The federalizing of cities, it's something to be prayerful about. It has been done. We've rolled National Guards into cities, but it needs to be often at the agreement of the states. President Trump could do it in Washington, D.C., and here's why I think he should. The Democrats are begging him to do it. They're daring him to do it because they want to make it an issue of race. They want to pretend this is him going after the black and brown people. So before federalizing Washington, D.C., if President Trump is truly willing to do that, I hope he will do this. I hope he'll go into the neighborhoods. I hope he will talk to people victimized by violent crime because a lot of them are black and brown, and they live within a quick walk from the Capitol. I'll never forget the day I was jogging through Washington, D.C. when I lived there. Early in the morning, decided to jog from D.C. to Maryland and back. It was a different direction I'd normally jog. I was jogging through a neighborhood, wearing my headphones, and I heard my name being called, screamed at, in fact. I turned around, well, is there any other Todd in the area? And there was a guy standing on his porch, a black man. I took off my headphones. He says, Todd! It was Dwayne, security guard at the Republican National Committee, friend of mine. He'd been there for 30 years, put 3 kids through college, by the way, at that job. And he yelled at me, what are you doing? I said, I'm just jogging. He goes, not here, you're not. You're going to get killed. So he made me come into his house and have a little breakfast with he and his wife, who had fresh squeezed orange juice and eggs. And he said I was insane to be running in that area. He made me promise to go out to the main road if I wouldn't wait to ride with him at work, and I couldn't. He made me promise to get out to the main road, not to jog through that neighborhood because I would get killed. I said, is it because I'm white? He goes, yeah, that's part of it. Other part of it is this is gang owned. So if President Trump is going to federalize Washington, D.C., find Dwayne. Have him speak to it, what his kids went through. Find the people in that neighborhood, what they've been through. Find the parents whose kids have been targeted by gangs and lost their lives. Federalize it for them. No greater love has man than to lay down his life for his brother. No greater model of that do you have than D.C. cops who've been fighting this battle, willing to lay down their lives. Many of them black. Be smart, President Trump.